Mr. Bristow.
And that DJ stands for disc jockey.
So we are here again, Point Blank Music School. We're in the DJ room, Studio 4 here. This is the Pioneer DJ room. Tell us a little bit about this room.
Well, it's packed with the latest Pioneer hardware on which our students enjoy pressing buttons regularly and
learning how to DJ, make sick mixes.
Yeah, getting lost in music generally.
Absolutely. So today we're going to show you a quick little tip. This is it's a bit clickbaity, I know the title. How to sync without actually using sync.
Yeah, obviously beat matching is the way to sync without just automatically using sync. Mm-hmm. And as a DJ school, we are not advocating cheating in any way, of course.
So I know you guys are already getting ready in the comments to type something, but lay off, okay, just hear us out.
Yeah, there's no substitute for learning how to beat match properly by ear, because if you don't learn that skill, you're not going to be able to tell whether the cheats have even worked. So that is all good, but this technique is a little bit of a hack where you can use the CDJ's BPM counters to get them two tunes exactly the same speed without them drifting at all very quickly. So it's very good if you've got a very limited time to mix, or you're doing quick mixing and you might be on decks that don't have auto sync. I mean, personally, I would never want to use auto sync just because, I'd get another 5 DJs looking over at the decks and giving me grief about it.
Every time I've ever used it in one of my videos, the first comment is always like, he's using sync, guys.
Yeah.
It's fine, it's okay to use sync.
But this is as good as that, but people won't necessarily know you've done it, unless they've watched this video, obviously. However, it's much more effective if you've processed the music with Rekordbox first. Because without the grids, the BPM value can change on the display, and therefore it's harder to get it locked in and know that you're exactly set, on the right speeds on both. Having said that, this technique comes from way before the days of Rekordbox software. I used to do this on CDJ 1000s back in the day, so it can still work even if you haven't processed the music and it's on a CD, for example. But if you've got that beat grid, you can rely on that BPM readout, and therefore it's going to be a lot more accurate. So a lot of people think, okay, I can see what the BPM says, so if I just make them say the same number, 120, 120, then bingo, they're in time. But unfortunately it's not as easy as that, because there's a slight range for each BPM value. Even when it's giving you a decimal point, like 120.0, if both say 120.0, they're very close to being the same tempo, but they still might be slightly different because there's a few different settings for each decimal place that it tells you, where it will still say the same exact 4-digit number, but the tempo has actually changed slightly, you see? So even within that 0.0 decimal place that it's telling me, there is a bit of room for maneuver where I can actually make it slightly faster or slightly slower, and it will still say exactly the same number. So just putting the two settings to the same exact 4-digit number is not necessarily accurate enough. They still might be a few points of a BPM different, and therefore it will drift.
And this tip is especially useful if you don't have decks like these ones, which give you a 0.0 decimal point, like a first decimal point. If you are just on solid numbers, this is even more useful.
Yeah, because then you've got a massive range. You've got a 0.8% range in a lot of cases where it will still say 120 beats per minute. So this trick is basically finding the very edge of the particular value that the BPM is displaying. So in a case of a CDJ 1000, for example, it would only be telling me 3 digits. So within that, I've got quite a wide range of settings where it will still exactly say 120. So I'd go right till I couldn't get any higher on the slider and it hit 121, and then just knock it back a tiny bit. So then I'd know that I'd found the kind of top end of the range for that particular value.
It's like you find that little ledge before it drops off into the next value.
Yeah, so it's the same principle. If it is giving you the decimal place, but you do it with the decimal point. So, for example, I'd go with the nearest BPM to this original speed is 120.0. So I'd keep moving the slider until it hit 120.1 and just find that exact point where it flicks between 0.0 and 0.1. And then if I left it on 0.0, I'm at the very top end of the range for 120.0. And then obviously I need to do exactly the same thing on this side. 120.0 to 120.1, and then just find that top end of 0.0. Now they're both saying 120.0, and I know they're both at the top end of the range for that value, rather than one being at the bottom and one being at the top. So hopefully this should now be exactly the same tempo, even though I haven't listened to it. I've just set the BPMs by looking. So that's that track. This is that track. Sounds pretty good to me. You're enjoying it.
I love it.
And if you listen, they're not drifting at all. I didn't listen in headphones. All I did was set the BPMs by looking and doing it like that. Now the beauty of this is obviously now I do my mix. I've gone over to this track. I'd load a new track. I know that that's at the top end of 120.0. So I just find the top end of 120.0 on this side. It's set, and I know that this is in time with this, and I've beat matched it in seconds. So if we forward this a bit. So you could, in fact, spend your whole set at one tempo, but obviously if you wanted to change tempo in the set, you might, while this is playing, nudge it up a little bit, get to the edge of a new value, and then you know your next track needs to be at the same edge of the same number.
Obviously, no substitute for learning how to actually beat match.
No, but there are plenty of people, I'm sure, who have learned that little trick and haven't spent as long learning to beat match by ear as a lot of people have, you know, and they might come unstuck because if they haven't processed their tunes with Recordbox, that's not going to be as reliable. Sometimes the grid's wrong and you can't actually see that it's wrong because you might be on an older model of CDJ and it doesn't show you the grid markers, and then you're going to be in trouble because you're matching BPMs that aren't even the correct value. So there's no substitute for learning by ear. I would always advocate cover those BPM counters up, practice. Once you're over that and you've got that skill, this can just mean you can do it in seconds. You can do 4-deck mixing very easily with this kind of trick. And you might not have a sync button, or you might not want the kind of stigma of using a sync button.
You don't want those people looking over your shoulder saying, he's using sync. We should go see another DJ.
Yeah, it just means, you know, it's a lot kind of quicker to get things locked in, and then you can concentrate on the more creative side of mixing and EQing and effects and all the rest of it.
And that, to me, is a real good part of DJing, is people get too hung up on the whole sync and like mixing and stuff like that. I think the most important thing is track selection.
Of course, yeah. Track selection is key. I mean, I've used this trick before because I've been distracted and I've literally looked down and gone, I haven't got hardly any time left to mix at all, and all I've got time to do is quickly get it in time and do a transition because, you know, I've been distracted from what I was actually doing. So it can be just a way of sort of getting out of problems as well.
Cutting, scratching, mixing, and daunting.
Awesome. That was just a quick little tip from us, showing you guys how to sync without using the sync button. And that's, as much as a clickbaity article, I think that is a very, very perfect way to explain how we've just done this trick. But yeah, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about DJing, make sure you come check us out at Point Blank Music School. Mr. Bristow here is our head DJ. Can you tell us a little bit more about our DJ courses?
Yeah, I mean, there's several different options. You can do a weekend course up to a degree program, which includes 3 different DJ modules. The Essential module is the first one of those 3, and that's where we really get into learning the real basics of how to connect equipment, how to beat match properly on vinyl, by ear, without any of the cheating methods we've been talking about. Moving into the more creative DJ skills module, which is more about tips and tricks and sort of effects and loops and hot cues and a cappella mixing. And then the advanced module focuses more on DVS systems, more external hardware, a lot more sort of advanced tricks.
Basically everything there is to learn about DJing, you can learn it here at Point Blank. So if you guys want to find out more about that, check out pointblankmusicschool.com, and we'll see you guys later.